meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. I think the first thing we're going to look at is public comment. Anyone here for public comment?
Maybe. I come to see if you guys are mad at me.
Mad at you?
About the hayfield.
Oh, yeah.
I heard there was a lot of commotion over here, and I heard from different people that I was stealing hay and all stuff. I just want to come over and straighten it out.
Okay.
That's what I do. Good. You know, I talked to Thor many times about that. Go ahead and cut it. I go buy a fellow cut. And they knew last year, Lori and Austin were both last year that I cut the hay. So they cut it and I went bail it. So, guys got any problems, let me know instead of let me hear through somebody else. That's all I want to say. You know, they left more hay over in that field than they took out here. For the other end, it's all, and I don't know what the big deal was with that little piece of front. All I know is a lot of trouble for everybody. If I caused any hard feelings over here, I'm sorry. I said they did it to me last year, and I said I knew this year that I was going to cut it. Cut it anyhow. You know, that's the only part they cut first. It's not here. I said, they're not doing it. That's like the old sheriff. They're not doing it to me twice. I went over there. We never sort of agreed on that, but we just let the hay happen now.
So you're okay with it?
There's any hard feelings with it, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. You can't let everybody shit on you all the time.
So what's going to happen going forward now? What is
Whatever you guys do with it.
That's what I think we need to decide. We decide that what's going to happen going forward.
What I thought I had good communication with your work for, well, how long? Since last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You go by and fall down. And then he tells me there's nothing I can do about it. Merv told me, you're too late. So I said, he's not doing it twice. That's where I was at. So, and he never even cleaned it all up. Besides that, you know, I went over after and I cleaned it up. Maybe I shouldn't even have done that. I don't know.
No, that's okay, right.
But anyway, whatever you guys decide,
okay.
Let me know one way or the other.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you. No hard feelings, Frank.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you want to come over and get one drink?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you, Frank.
Anyone else here for public comments or screen? All right, if not, move on to the minutes. June 24th, which I was here.
Move to accept the minutes.
Okay, we've got a motion. Board.
I'll second.
Second by Nevin to approve the minutes as presented. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Financial statement. July 29th. What do we have here? Are we looking good, Brian? Or?
This one's not my baby. So what do we got?
You're so good at it.
So. Sure, do you want to do these separate? Do you want to do airport and then the traffic bill separate? I think we should.
Anything you have to add on the financials?
Most everything is pretty standard.
Well, I would move page 1 and 2 and page 3 of airport commission bills. One was $80,211.28, and the other one is $6,609.79. I would move to pay those airport bills.
We have a motion. I'll support that. Second by Nevin. Motion by Brian. Any questions or discussion?
I'll just note one bill on there for Adam McIntyre meeting that was for that leak in the bill. And looking at the bill, I have to finalize the total. I don't know if we've gotten South Anderson's bill on that yet, but we had talked about doing an insurance claim, and I don't know if it's going to be worth the insurance claim versus just paying it straight out. You know, if the insurance cost goes up or something like that. So,
Okay.
no.
What is the Houston Economic Development Authority? That's what we pay the portion of Kairos, or is that rent? That's yours? Okay. I guess I misread it. I thought it said audit. I thought we, therefore, they're separate. Kita did their audit, so okay. That's Kairos' share of okay. Good.
All right, any other comments or questions? If not, we'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to the other one.
Mr. Chair, we got Airport Phase 1, short Elliott Henderson for $49,870. I think so. What? So I'd move the Phase 1 bill.
All right, we've got a motion.
I'll support that.
In a second. Right now. Any comments or questions on that? We were just trying to wake you up, Bob. That scared you a little bit there.
Bob, are we getting up to the end of the Phase 1 bills?
That should be it.
That should be it. Hopefully.
All right. Any further questions, comments? Call a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then on to the engineer's report.
We got a little more.
We got phase 2 and phase 3.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, we got a small one here. Phase 2, Ewan Brothers and Short Elliott Henderson for $2,222,628.21.
That's a hard one we can't overlook it.
We'll pay Phase 2.
I'll second that.
A motion by McBride and Nevin. Any questions or discussion on that? Lots of money. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, we have Phase 3, Short Elliott and Wagner Construction, $85,895. Move to pay Phase 3.
And I'm just assuming that Wagner's is for the balloon launch relocation.
Yes.
I'll second that as well.
Okay, McBride and Nevin, any further comments or questions on that? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Can I just ask, Kyra, with the new process with the city and county, that's going well? Okay, good.
Good. All right, now we can go to the engineer's report. Who's Bob or who's talking?
Yeah, we can start with the terminal if you'd like.
Okay, that sounds good.
I did provide an update on where we're at in your packet. Everybody had a chance to review that?
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'll turn it over to Steve Trudeau to go through the items. And then Nate is also on the line, and we can add in some comments on the generator. I think that's the biggest one that we have out there right now. So Steve, do you want to go?
Good, Bob.
Thank you.
Yep, I will. Yeah, thanks. The first item on the list that you should be looking at are light monitor leak. With the recent rains that we've had, no reports of any further leaking, and we did a water test as well on everything we had reconstructed on that southeast light monitor. So the good news is no more leaks, we solved the issue. I do have phone calls into AW Kettle and Masabi Glass to determine next steps. We want to get the metal panels back on that light monitor, and then discuss the other two that we believe should also be looked at, reconstructed. So I do have calls into both of those fellows. I've not heard back. I will try them again today and come up with a game plan. I'm sure they're busy with summer work and probably don't want to be on a hot roof right now anyway, but, coming up soon enough, it'd be nice to get after that, maybe tail end of August or early September. Number two, balancing valve heating line leak. That, Kyra, I heard your comment. You did receive Adam McIntyre's billing, so that's great. I was kind of waiting to see if that had come through or not. So I'm glad they got that directly to you. The work is complete. I took a look at that last time I was there. I'll take a look at our side and get you our portion of that cost later this week. I'll work with our accounting department and get you a billing. So that portion is complete. Yep.
This is Bob Kors. Are there more invoices, or will it just be those two?
I think there's three total. Shannon's Mechanical, Kyra, I think you've already received theirs, and I believe paid that. You just received that, and McIntyre's approved that today, and then I'll get you Kraus Anderson's portion. That should be the only three involved. Assuming that Ted took care of carpet extraction from some of the glycol that had dripped down from that heating valve. I assume that was not an outsourced cost, or if you're trying to roll that into, this overall cost, if you do wish to forward it on to your insurance company. So moving into phase one, phase two, the generator. We've had several meetings. We're making some fairly good progress. There's a little bit of a disconnect on what the terms of the warranty should have been from the original purchase of that generator through Hanson Electric, is who the Airport Commission has a contract with. It got a little muddied up because the people that represented the Generac boiler and, sell it to the electricians were dropped from Generac's list of approved vendors to, sell their product. And now HM Craig has taken over that account. So there was some disconnect on who was providing, what kind of a warranty. The original purchaser did not file the correct full 5-year warranty on parts and labor. So when HM Craig was taking this account over, all they could see was a standard warranty of, I think, maybe 1 year labor, 3 years parts. But Nate, maybe you want to give a little more insight on the conversations that we've had and been able to provide, good news, I guess, on this topic.
As good as we can at this point in time. But, as Steve stated, that the original contract documents via Steve Hansen and Hansen Electric required a 5-year parts and labor warranty across the board for a fully functional system. So they didn't file the paperwork. So ultimately, Generac, the manufacturer of the unit, holds that warranty regardless of who their designated installers and representatives are. There was that misalignment of paperwork from that first installer, which was Titan Energies, and then HM Craig came on board. We were continuing those conversations, as you're well aware, trying to let them understand that no, the contract documents required a full 5-year parts and labor. Steve Hansen was able to pull together the actual original PO that specifically had the line item for the 5-year parts and labor warranty. We presented that to HM Craig and to Generac.
Once they reviewed that document, they agreed that yes, they are beholden to that original contract in the 5 years. So HM Craig is going to work with Steve Trudeau and get time set up to come out and fix the current issues. I know that there's the crack on the unit, and also adhere to that 4-hour test to see how that oil burn is affecting the unit and what's wrong there. So we're still working on defining a time for them to come up and do that work. And Steve, I don't think you've heard from them yet, correct?
We have not. The note we got yesterday from John Hansen at HM Craig, certainly acknowledging the agreement to the 5-year warranty, and he's going to set up a time then schedule his crews once they have the parts, which I assumed he was already ordering the parts after our last meeting with him, but maybe they did not. I don't know. I would sure think within the next 2 weeks we could, 2 to 3 weeks, schedule a time with them to be up, get the exhaust pipe repaired, and do the 4-hour load test and understand what the oil consumption might be based on that. So it was a good meeting. I think that we had our missing piece, and apologies for that, Nate. I know you were having some family issues at the time and were not able to join that call, so we hadn't realized what the full specification had included for the 5-year. That was a little bit of our disconnect when we had that meeting. We weren't sure what it actually said, but yep. Good news is they're on their way back. We just need to find the date, the time, make sure it works for everybody, and get after it. Now, separate from that, they had offered they tried to tie a 3-year service contract to coming up and completing these repairs, but now that we've separated that and said no, those repairs should be done under the 5-year warranty, Thor might have a separate proposal for consideration if you wish to do a 3-year service contract with HF Craig. But no commitments at all. You don't need to do that, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, Thor, I think that's worthy of discussion. If the commission wants to have a 3-year maintenance agreement with HM Craig, were you forwarded that quote from them?
You know, Bob, I was, and unfortunately, I did not bring it to the meeting. I can certainly run up and grab it.
I can. Let me just review it here quickly with you.
Sure.
So they did provide a 3-year maintenance agreement. Year 1 would be for, let's see, to do a load bank included, the 3-year contract would be $6,542. And unfortunately, he did not provide much information as to what else would be performed in the 3-year agreement, but it does talk about a 2-hour load bank performed each year for $950, and then year 1 it's just major, which is $1,183. Year 2, $1,230. Year 3, $1,279. And from our previous conversations, Steve and Nate, maybe you can help me out here. I believe they would do quarterly testing for that, for the major, and then once a year do the 2-hour load bank test. And that would be maintenance, I believe, then covered all parts and labor. Is that correct? Do I have that correct?
I would suspect it covers probably either parts or labor. I don't know if that would include everything. It's usually those typical stipulations of, nothing truly major, or it's a negotiated cost rate if something major does go out once you're past that warranty period. So not dissimilar to, those typical car warranties. They'll cover certain parts and aspects of the motor and the engine, but I'm sure they exclude some, and we'd have to really look at that contract detail to make sure that we understand exactly what that covers.
generators for many, many years, and has performed their own testing on it. Now, this is a new generator, and Thor, I'm not sure, if this is different, and if you're not as comfortable performing all the service on it. But what HM Craig wanted to do initially here was to they would come up and fix the unit free if you sign this 3-year agreement. So, but now we do know that the 5-year warranty covers it. So you're having the 4-hour load test. You're also getting everything fixed free under warranty. So there's no need to do the maintenance agreement, but it is something that is presented, and that was part of the specification as well, that this would be presented to the commission for consideration.
Bob, I should also add, for the commission's behalf, your 5-year warranty now that they have acknowledged and agree with should take you through the end of September of 2022. I believe we had a substantial completion date early October. I want to say it might have been October 3 of 17 on phase 1. That was the original purchase of the generator and installation. So that's when the warranty should start, but we'll confirm what's in the paperwork from them. Sometimes they like to start the warranty as soon as they install it instead of the true substantial completion date of the project. I wanted to throw it out there. The 5-year warranty should take it through the end of September of 22.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, Steve and Bob. I think that's something to consider is that the discussion about the maintenance contract over that time frame, it seemed to me that we would rely on the existing warranty until September of 22. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
That would not include the 2-hour load bank every year.
Correct. Could Nate maybe expand on that?
Yeah, so per the NFPA requirements for emergency generator, which is an emergency generator because it has life safety components, you do have to do the testing on the periodic testing, and then you also should, just in good practice, go through, and usually it's on a monthly basis, just do a switch over and load up the generator with its design load criteria. In this case, basically the entire facility is backed up. So switching over from normal utility power over the generator once a month for a 1 to 2 hour period, just to see that it's all functioning per requirements and per code. So I think that's kind of the biggest piece is that testing and just making sure that you guys are comfortable with that sequence of operation, making that happen to comply and adhere to the requirements of the NFPA.
That should be done under full load, right?
Ideally, yeah. It doesn't, by the code, it doesn't technically say that it has to be under load. It just has to be run and prove that the generator starts, transfer switches switch over, and load is accounted for. But ideally, you want to load that generator up, otherwise you're going to have other issues.
So if this agreement, the 5-year service or 5-year warranty is going to expire 2022, it started in 2017, so we're 3 years into it. Have we incurred costs, the airport commission, on this generator that we have eaten so far? Great question.
I'm aware of
much of that stuff, whether it be to Carl Anderson or anybody else. I mean, somebody should go good for that.
Yeah.
Steve, you can correct me, but I don't believe we've incurred any construction site costs. We did expand the components that were connected to the generator via proposal request avenue in phase 2. We added some loads and some connections and some coordination pieces, but I'm not aware that we incurred any costs that were outside the bounds of the contract documents.
I would agree with that. There certainly was a proposal from HM Craig to come up and fix your exhaust pipe for $3,000 and change, but they now understand and agree that should be done at no cost to the airport. That should be covered in full under the 5-year parts and labor warranty. So, to my knowledge, there's been no incurred additional cost, correct? So, Nate, you mentioned that under NFPA, the generator should be or must be tested annually and documented. Is there some form? I mean, is there, the NFPA police that show up one day and say, let me see your documents, or how does this work?
No, I mean, it's, if something did occur, they would back check that log. No different than your fire sprinkler systems and those types of things, right? It's only when something happens typically that they actually back check the logs. But yeah, it's a form, and I can get you a copy of that form. You sure you already have it as part of the O&M components. But I can get you a copy of that form and just make sure that you're aware of the expectations and requirements. It's nothing overly hard. It's just basically just running the system and making sure everything transfers over and you don't have any issues in running it for a period of time.
And I'm not sure if the commission previous to this generator being put in place had anything similar from a protocol on annual testing on, the old system. I suspect, I don't know, Nate, maybe you could comment on this, there should be no need, no requirement to have a certified HM Craig company per se come up and do this annual testing. I would sure think facilities can take care of that themselves and provide the documentation, whether it's, Jackson or Ted, whomever, as long as it's done and you keep that on the file. Is that a true statement?
That's a very true statement, yep. Yep. And that's why, I was just going to clarify, and that's the reason why for the maintenance agreements and the specifications, I break that out as a separate cost to be presented to the owner, because every owner is different in terms of their abilities. But I know that you guys have the facility's knowledge base to handle these types of things. So I didn't want you to get incurred with these costs for no reason. Let you guys have that decision of whether you wanted to retain services like that.
If I may, the last round of quote-unquote generators that we've operated and maintained, we had 2 generators. And frankly, over the life of those generators, which was at the 30-year plus time frame, 40-year time frame, we had minimal issues with them. Okay, it really was. You're talking about that. You have to have a combination, and I realize I'm being Captain Obvious here, but obviously you have to have a power outage, correct? Thank you. Okay, and you have to have power outage at a critical time, right? I.e., flight time, correct? And one could plug in there. Nighttime would not be a good thing, et cetera, et cetera. So really, from a safety perspective, at the end of the day, truly, I feel comfortable with let's hold their feet to the fire, and on the 5-year, my recommendation would be we hold the feet to the fire on the 5-year. Obviously, being very with the load bank test coming up and with definitive proof, paper trail that they have solved the oil consumption issue, I'm comfortable personally with. I'd recommend let's run the 5-year, go to the end of that, and then let's regroup at that point and see where we are, in my opinion.
And then we would have local staff do the annual test.
Between Ted, Jackson, and myself, we'll make sure it runs hopefully simplified. If not, I'm going to call Nate at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I still don't have a lot of confidence in that one generator.
I will blame Nate. So, put that out there.
Right. Well, let's see how that goes. We'll get the HM Craig folks up there to repair the exhaust pipe. Maybe that was the issue on why there was some excessive oil consumption. Also, I think at the same time it'd be wise to be sure Ted, if it's Ted that would be doing your monthly, runs on the generator, would understand from HM Craig how to properly do that. They may advise to put some load on it if you can, get the rings to seat within the engine so there's no blow by on the lower set of rings on the pistons, and hopefully not have any oil issues. But to be sure it's within the normal parameters is what I'm sure they will say of consumption. With that, Nate, you still have another item I think is on the table to consider. Once that issue is resolved, you are still needing to provide, I think, if that's still on the table, a proposal to add the JetBridge GPU load onto the generator. Is that correct?
I didn't get back from Steve Hansen yesterday. I thought that we got all the wiring done in the main electrical room to accommodate the JetBridge, but there was an interlock requirement that we had to interface with the JetBridge control system, which I don't think has occurred yet. So I need to follow up with Steve Hansen, confirm exactly what he has finished, and then close that loop in the interlocking of the JetBridge system.
If I may also add, running back quickly, Nate, clarify something for me. When the generator, is your understanding, when the generator is in the auto test mode, okay, so, whether that's set up for a week or a month or, what have you, had it set for a week before.
Yep.
When that's working at full capacity, though, in the way the parameters are set, it's running at full RPM, but it's not running under load, correct?
Correct. It would only be running under the load if you switch over from the utility side. If you don't go into a neutral position on the transfer switches, if you actually just had the transfer switches switch over so that everything on the building is on the generator at that point, then you're under the load that the building's under at that time. So, yeah. So I think that, to me, that's where it's relatively simple with the whole building basically being on the generator. It's easy to kind of get it mostly loaded up because you can just time that out and make sure that you have a lot of equipment running at that given time to make sure you have a good load characteristic when you're doing that test.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nate, from an engineering perspective, and Thor would recall this conversation that we had with the HM Craig folks in Generac, the main engineer, Donovan from Generac. Is this generator capable of handling the perfect storm? If you were going to add the JetBridge onto it, can it run the fire pump? Can it run all the life safety branches? I mean, all three legs of what's on that generator? Is it capable of doing that if you were to add the JetBridge on?
It's not capable of everything and the fire pump. So how the setup works is that if the perfect storm happened, we have to prioritize life safety, and the fire pump would take the highest priority, and everything else that's non-life safety would be shut off via the transfer switch. So that's where that interlock piece comes into play on the JetBridge, is that I need to shunt that off if the fire pump turns on and has a need for the fire pump. But it'll handle everything else. So the likelihood of that happening scenario in terms of absolutely everything needing to go on is, like a 0.00001 probability, but it is a probability. So we just have to set it up in the sequence that I shunt off all non-essential loads and life safety is the only thing left on.
Which, if I understood that correctly, Nate, that's automatic. This is not a manual requirement of staff to go shut manually a transfer switch off. These are ATSs, correct?
That's correct, automatic transfer switches. And yes, it's meant to be an automatic sequence of operation.
cementing the jet bridge in the perfect storm, that would create, in the 0.00001 whatever percent chance that staff would have to maybe manually, pull the jet bridge away from the aircraft. Correct?
Yep.
Gotcha. Is that clear, Thor? I mean, I know we had some conversations. We weren't sure we were missing Nate at the last meeting.
No, thank you for the question and thank you for the explanation. That's very well presented and understood and well received from my perspective. We can definitely make that work.
Yeah,
absolutely. If we had the perfect storm, you got a fire, you got the jet bridge hooked to the aircraft. You're concerned about, I'm being sarcastic. You're concerned about starting the aircraft with the APU. We got an issue at that point, right? We're going to have
correct.
Sorry, you can physically move that stuff?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we clarification. We can physically move the jet bridge. We cannot physically move the aircraft. Still have to do that. Let it burn. But no one's inside the aircraft. Sorry about that. Clarification.
Right.
Well, we never crossed that bridge.
Stop that.
Yeah, it's really hard from a code perspective, that we have very clear delineations that from the code perspective, the only thing it really cares about is life safety. So as long as we have all the pieces in place to allow life safety to occur, we're good. And that's how we're setting it up for you. Or have set it up for you. Yep.
So Nate, you still Nate is with Steve Hansen if what's been done and what hasn't been done, and there may be additional cost coming to put in the ATS automatic transfer switch.
For that interlock of the jet bridge, yeah, that's the one thing I have to go back and look. I've lost track on that specific piece, so I'll look up with Steve to make sure that we're tracking that item throughout.
So Mayor, at this point, it may not have been done.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, let me know what you come up with, Nate, and we can get after that right away.
Yep.
So who makes the decision on the service agreement? I mean, recommendations. I guess I'm a little bit confused.
So what I heard is that we have the opportunity. It sounds like Thor feels more than comfortable based on the length of the warranty still in place that he would recommend not accepting that service agreement. And I feel the same. I think your staff is qualified and doesn't really need that service maintenance agreement. And then that you would reevaluate at that 2022 time frame of them potentially doing a service maintenance agreement.
Good.
Sounds like a winner. All right. Anything else on the generators? Okay. Please continue that.
Sounds good. Moving on to the boiler issue. Everybody agreed previously that you should proceed with the Int'l company to complete repairs needed on boiler number 2. I did contact Ted, had a conversation with him. He was going to contact Int'l company and get that scheduled. I don't know if they've completed that work yet. I would have to follow up with Ted unless, or maybe if Ted has seen anything. Okay.
Oh.
I'll follow up with Ted and see if he was able to connect with you and get that scheduled.
It's July, wait.
It's been on vacation.
Yeah.
Additionally, then the other remaining items under number 3, 11-month punch list, the security camera. While I can't confirm, I'm told it was reinstalled on July 15. So I'm not sure if anybody saw that occur. I did put in a text to the individual last week, but have not heard back yet. But It was supposed to be reinstalled on July 15th.
As the security camera world continues to turn, I shall try to be brief. So, 2 weeks ago, Brothers Security shows up, unannounced by the way, thank you. And they are there to reinstall / new security camera, which would be above Mr. Paul Levin's office, looking to the northwest end of the parking lot. Wonderful. Gentleman shows up, sporting an attitude, wrong thing to start off with, which is fine. And showed up and said, I'm here to fix the camera. That's all kind of great. In the meantime, he blamed us, kind of interesting, that he couldn't get into the computer system, and it was our fault because we supposedly changed the codes to get into the computer system. I assured the gentleman that we did not change the codes. Here's our code book. Do the code, it's not in there. And it turns out, shall we say, a disgruntled employee is no longer with Brothers. When he left, he took the code book. Right? So totally crazy. Brothers sends up Tech 101, and he starts off with a negative attitude towards me truly, personally, and then he goes to the boss of Brothers on the phone, and it got, shall we say, warm from there. Eventually, the gentleman did come to the conclusion, my God, you guys didn't change the codes. The guy who left the company has all the codes. Now, I don't understand their system, but what is fascinating is a single person can leave a company and literally can do damage, in that capacity. So after about 3 hours of troubleshooting, we still did not get the proper codes. And frankly, after the gentleman left, we went back into the system, talked to another person at Brothers St. Cloud, and we just stuck with it, and we went to the code store, and we removed the code. So at this point, we're waiting for the gentleman to return with the new camera to install the camera and hopefully get back up and running. The good news is all the cameras are running except that one. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you for that update, Thor. I was not aware of that. I'll certainly follow up with Bolton and whomever at Brothers and understand what the issues are currently, but we'll get it resolved.
Do you know the tech? Who is the tech name?
Yeah, Airport Manager 101, den mother and psychologist.
What was the name? The name of that
What now?
What was the text name?
I've got it.
Could you forward it?
The new guy.
The new guy. The guy left was Greg Evans, I'm assuming. He's popped up at another company and told me, unless you were talking about Wayland.
Wayland. Not trying to protect the guilty or the innocent. I don't remember.
Yep, that's right.
Wayland would be the new replacement for Greg Evans.
Correct.
And I'll talk to Wayland, but I didn't know if you knew who the name of the technician who physically was on site might have been.
Yeah, Greg got a job in the Department of Defense.
Yeah, he's likely there. Yeah, right, yeah. Excellent. That's not all they did. This group has never mind, I'm not going to.
I will follow up with Wayland and get to the bottom of the code.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be nice if someone added with the, and I can certainly do it. Maybe the new tech needs a little lesson in social and public relations.
Courtesy, yes.
Courtesy would be very good. That gets you a long way here. The other attitude gets you nothing here. Thank you. I feel better.
Totally agreed. Moving on then, we are still continuing some further research and coordination with TNT to, maybe understand some more insulating they may have to do from the underside. It might require taking down some of the tongue and groove boards in the custom side, but I'll follow up. I do have a message into Hamelin a couple weeks ago, but I've not heard back, so that's on my plate. I'll follow up on that. Airside light fixtures, Hanson Electric, they were completed on, I believe, Monday the 13th. Thor, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And
before I forget, please share with it's probably on your list, sorry to jump ahead, on the customs glass.
So there is a proposal. Did Anderson Glass get you that full proposal yet, Thor?
Yes. And I think, did I forward that to you, Karen? No, probably not. But yeah.
So there's a window in customs office that the interior pane of that glass somehow broke. It requires a full replacement of that glass unit. I don't recall if that was a triple pane set of glass or just a double, but it was tempered glass, not laminated glass, so we did confirm that. And that would need to be replaced, not under warranty, unless, there was something that we could point to that said, no, the unit just sort of exploded by itself from, the sealed gas unit inside. But I don't think that's the case, Thor. Somehow customs might have broke it inadvertently, not really sure what happened, but it does need to be replaced. So you should have a proposal then from Anderson Glass Company out of Grand Rapids. If you need to approve that today and take any formal action, so be it, to give them the green light to proceed with that order.
Yes. What are we looking at for cost? Let me ask that question when I should have the answer. No. I can get it by the end of the meeting. Quickly.
It's just the one page, right?
Correct.
But I think we probably should take some action on raising.
It needs to get fixed. It's literally dangerous.
The motion by Brent.
I'll second.
Then we've got the second by Paul. Any discussion on that or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Got to go ahead there.
Super. I'll follow up with Chris. I'm looking at my emails right now, Thor, and I'm not seeing anything on my end, but he could have gotten you final pricing. I'm not sure, but I'll follow up with Chris this morning.
Yeah, I'll get a copy to the group here by the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
The only other item, asphalt repair in front of phase 2 portion of the terminal. Bob, I did see a note from Sean, so that's thank you for that. Sean was following up with the right folks at Uland to obtain a quote to mill and overlay that section of pavement. So we can certainly follow up more with Sean and see what he's been able to find. I suspect Uland will have to kind of go do a measure to understand the full size of what should be milled and overlaid.
Yeah, I think Chelsea is looking into it now, but that was just a few days ago, so I don't think she's probably had time. Chelsea, are you still on, or?
Yeah,
She's here.
but no, they have not been able to get us a quote yet, so I just talked to them about it yet.
Chelsea's the one keeping us order here.
Believe me.
And that's all from my end on terminal update, unless Bob or Nate have anything further.
I do not.
No, I don't have anything further either. I do want to let you guys know I do have another meeting scheduled at 9, so I'll have to drop off at that time.
As do I.
All right, so why don't we just move forward then?
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. I'll sign off as well.
Thanks, Steve, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Have a great week.
Thank you. What's that, Kevin? Oh.
I think I'm up next in some way.
Yep. Welcome. How's everything going?
Good. It's going good. We're supposed to have a drier week this week, less wet, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's been happy with the weather this
I just heard the morning, and for the next 7 days, it looks like pretty nice.
It does, yeah. It's one of the nicest weather we're gonna have. So, so I guess we'll give you a photo update first. I have it up on the here. So this is one of those really nice nights. We were shaving really late. We got to watch the sunset.
Beautiful. Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah. So that should.
Well, that tells me you're working late.
Yeah. That week we were. They were doing really well. They paid almost 2,400 tons a day.
Oh,
So pretty substantial.
I am very impressed with you.
I'm telling you, there is no comparison. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Brian and I are dealing with other road projects. You're telling me
There is no comparison. It is night and day. And I'm being nice in my description.
So phase 2C on the south end, towards the runway 31 end, is completely paved and has been striped. All the pavement markings are there, and then the edge lights have also been installed. They are doing some restoration and fertilization and hydromulching of all the grass areas and the haul routes that they use. So that should be pretty much wrapped up here in June.
What's the distance on that that's completed in that end?
I believe it's over 2,000. No, it's quite a ways. It might be just close to 3,000. Because we did cut it back a little bit because of that FAA cable. And then they also started, while they were paving phase 2C, they started phase 2A up on the north end there. And they did a lot of grading there in those first couple of weeks. And they milled about 2 weeks ago now, and now they're fully drain tile installation. And we have some cutting for the taxiway and the connectors. And for the connector is on one last year. And they're placing the 154 fans in terms of that. So there's the first list of that, and then we'll get testing hopefully this week next week, and then we'll be moved on to that second list of fan.
where do they get that fan material?
They get that, well, it's actually been kind of a hodgepodge. I think that's a little bit harder to get up here, so.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, some of this stuff specifically was actually under the taxes, so they were able to use some of that, and then they were also getting some from a Simba fan.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are,
Yeah.
Happy land, Zimbas, isn't it?
yeah, so those have been
Good.
big factors. So that phase is moving along nicely, and while they're working on that phase, they actually just started phase 2C, which is the apron expansion area. They started that this Monday. They found quite a bit of drain tile that we're having to tie into, so they've done a lot of that work, and they're grading and hoping to put down the exit tomorrow. And then concrete will start next week. So this one will be a quick one.
Rick, what are you thinking? What you going? I understand. Don't care if you believe me. We have that meeting once a week behind the screen. We don't even tell the SDH at all. Go after hours? Yeah, but we can't get her done. Yeah.
And then I also have some updates for the weather balloon. I'll just do the construction photo based on some facts. So as you guys can probably tell, all of the buildings were removed on the weather balloon site tonight. They also started, they did all the demolition, and that's actually the footing of the excavation to the footing of the building on the right there. So it should be forming for the concrete head walls, and then, or the concrete footing, and then just be fine. They're moving along there as well.
So Chelsea, everything's moving along at schedule. I mean, the timing is amazing.
Yeah, we just actually got an updated schedule from Scott runway area. So that's here. We have phase 2B starting close to August 10th. We're going to do a little bit of concurrent phasing with phase 2A. So we can get things done as Awful.
And they have a friend who's a relative of one of our employees of the county, and he worked in construction in Colba. And he went to work for Int'l.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. He sees it from the inside. He said that it's phenomenal. It's a smooth operation. Everything goes.
On a personal experience and John agrees that if it was just a minor issue, I actually feel a little bit guilty bringing it to their attention because they jump. Yeah, but hey, guys, please do this. I'm just asking this, please, like that. Is it okay? Well, of course it is. Well, yeah.
So different than what Commissioner Wright and I are.
I'm anticipating next year.
Yeah. They're really, they're almost like steps ahead of where they need to be, but it definitely makes sense for the planning, and they're doing a great job. So.
They are.
And thanks for the visuals,
But
because
came down, you got your furniture moved, right?
I did.
I have to say this every meeting. I mean, I think a lot of the general public doesn't understand the scope and scale of this project. I mean, the drainage and the lighting and all of the subsoil and then to be pulled back, it's massive, and so it's impressive.
Yeah, and they're really creating like huge lines, and there's a lot of grading out there that they're doing that kind of understated, I think.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, they're strung out on projects. They're so efficient. I mean, if there's a down day here for the drivers, they're in Duluth, or they're in Chisholm, or
The leadership and the ownership takes pride. They're capitalists. They're making money, no question. But most importantly, what I see is there's pride in the organization, there's professionalism. Yeah, they're very concerned about their work.
They definitely want to do the best job.
Yes, they do.
Very good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, so with that, I think that we just pay applications, unfortunately. So for the runway and taxiway reconstruction, with phase 2 phase, and the painting and all the electrical done, and then the milling and grading for phase A, as well as some return tile installation. We consider the pay application number 5 for $1,900,800.21. That was including the component.
Is that all right?
So we're good. Yep. And then for the weather balloon, again, they did all the demolition and the foundation construction in progress, as well as the grading. They're still scheduled to complete the project on September 1st. At least that portion, I think they have some removals after that, on the airfield side. But consider the pay application number 1 for $17,095.
I was in there too.
I think the only thing that I have as an update for phase 3 is the building property temporary easement. I did got an email from Steve having some concerns about working with the building, but I don't think they own it anymore. So yeah, I think we're checking with that, and it's not owned. I don't remember.
Keep going. I'll say what we're going to keep. Yep. Building. So I was going to share that information. Yeah, it is sold. It is now owned by some folks in Denver. Yeah. I'm going to do my best. Roots and Linda Trujillo.
Yeah.
Trujillo. In a place called, in a place called Denver. So that'll help. And I forwarded that information on to Steve Shimon. So that'll help that situation, I believe.
Yeah, so hopefully there's not a conflict of interest anymore.
Correct. And the hope is that the information was transferred right. Because we definitely did a proactive with the original owners on the future impact of that property for the fence line, temporary impact. So one would hope and pray that the real estate folks share it with me.
But I think hopefully we can continue down that path then, so we'll be any difference on that. Funding and grants, I think the only thing is that Florida did get the entitlement grant, I believe, is what that was for. So that's for all of the weather balloon stuff, and it was the CARES inflation was 5%. So I think I'll put up here. So this is what I think we got for.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's on my list.
Yeah, so I think this is for the entitlement grant. So we had a supplementary and an entitlement grant this year. So the supplementary grant is for almost all of phase 3 reconstruction. And then the entitlement grant included the art part and the weather balloon relocation project, as well as some of the reimbursable agreements for phase 3 and the site checks for the temporary runway. So that's what this one includes. And it's just stating with that CARES Act amount, CARES Act amount is $50,000, and I believe that's just the 5% that they're funding of the local share. So this will be a fully funded because of the CARES Act. So that's good. And then I think we're just still waiting for the supplementary grant.
But we did learn too that the bonding bill did not get out of the legislature, so that money's.
We're still not done though. There may be another opportunity. I hope they can. Anyway.
I don't have anything for public involvement, and then upcoming meeting dates. The phase 2 project meeting every Tuesday at 1 p.m. in this room, and then the weather balloon project meeting is every Tuesday at 10 p.m. So we'll next week on how it's works.
All right.
That's all I have for updates. Okay.
Any questions? All right. Well, thank you. Move on then. Old business? You don't have any, do we, there? New business, draft lease agreement.
I've been working on that TSA lease agreement.
Oh, my God.
And it's a pretty standard agreement. They set the language and we set the rate. So I went through and basically mimicked our old lease agreement with them in terms of the rate. The old agreement was an annual increase of 2.99%. So I used that formula going forward. This agreement would be a 10-year agreement with review. The 10 years, 3 years firm. So it's agreement for 10, but a minimum of 3. So I have sent it off to TSA for them to now send to GSA for GSA to review the rates and get all of that in place. So there's nothing that needs to be signed today, but I don't know if you want to work that to have approval to send it to GSA or what that, how you want to work that.
So we're looking at 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 299, that's probably reasonable. I like a longer agreement than a short one because things can change.
Mm-hmm.
At least we know where we're at. But I suppose you'll need approval here from the board. Yeah. So what are the wishes of the board?
You need a motion to send it to them?
A motion to approve it, so she can,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
but under what she described, 2.99 for 10 years.
And my guess it'll come back before the commission, well, again, for signatures and everything once finalized, so.
So we've got a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, Walt and Paul. Any questions or discussion on that? Sure. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then the draft budget. That time of year, huh?
Yeah. So it's a very draft budget. that I worked up. I focused mainly on the operational side of things for now. We have a pretty good standpoint of where the budget was from last year for the runway construction. So I focused mostly on the operations side for this particular meeting, and then I'll work on the construction side afterwards. Everything pretty much stayed the same. There's a couple of things that I lowered slightly with the power and the energy bills. I lowered those just a little bit as we haven't been seeing those costs, and I think with construction done on the terminal, those costs are lower now as well. And then I just took and I looked at our 6 months, where we're at for 6 months, and kind of gauged that a little bit as well. Everything on the first page other than that is pretty much the same. I did increase the garbage removal just slightly based off of what our monthly rate is currently, so I did increase that a little bit. I kept the janitorial services the same amount just due to where we were at in 2019, but now with 2020 and not the unknowns of 2021 with COVID and requirements and extra cleanings and that sort of thing, I just left it the same. On the second page for B3 reporting, I lowered that slightly as we haven't been getting, to that higher amount. So I dropped that down a little bit. The maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance expenses, that's a rate that we just keep annually. I think we've always kept that consistent with 75,000 and 25,000, just to have that in there. On that. Third page, there's a slight increase with mid-continent. I might up that as an additional 500, and then typically PC repair. I slightly increased that just based off of the where we're at 6 months and the monthly costs that aren't being incurred. The big cost of 2014 was mostly for CBT and that sort of stuff. The annual cost for CBT on Verizon, I decreased that based on our monthly rate. So that went down quite significantly. And then Marco is kind of, I wouldn't say a new contract, but it is with the phase 2 because of the conference room here. And I've been trying to get a hold of an actual signed contract from them. No one can give me a signed contract, so we've been going back and forth because the rates that what they're charging, I'm unsure of what it is. Nobody can seem to tell me what it is. So there's supposed to be Marco rep coming up to sit down with me to review that. But I did put it in the budget going forward for right now. And if later on we decided that those services aren't needed, cancel them. But it was part of the agreement with phase 2 being filled that this was in with the contract of this room. That makes sense. Next page, airport manager's contract. I just left that the same as always. Everything on the next page then was left the same as the previous year.
So you're okay with this? Absolutely.
2021 over 2020 has a estimated 5%
Decrease.
for operation.
It's unusual in this day and age, but thank you.
Sure, Kara, I wonder, since CARES money's been allocated to the county and the city for expenses incurred as a result of COVID, I wonder if some of the cleaning and some of that would be eligible. And since it's joint city-county, if we could pool, I mean, it's not going to be maybe a significant number, I don't know, but maybe some of that would be eligible under that CARES money. I don't know.
Well, and we have the CARES agreement, which will help cover our maintenance and operations. I think then anything above this, or anything above our maintenance and operations grant agreement, that they usually pay 70% up to, I believe it's $113,000 per year. We are at $300,000, so roughly. So I believe the CARES Act funding will cover that to 100%. So there may not be a local share on this operation by that CARES.
That's right. There's separate money directed just to the airport. That's right. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. That's good.
And I believe we have 4 years.
That's right.
Those funds, which get us through 21. So, yeah. I'll find out more on that, but I'm fairly certain that's how that funding works. That anything above the number operation. But
Any questions for Kyra?
I just want to thank Kyra for the work she put in on this and the different leases. That NOAA lease was kind of convoluted and she wasn't given much direction, but she did a good job of kind of putting that together as well. So, good job.
So when would this have to be adopted?
exactly for the next meeting again with the construction.
Finally.
Once I get the construction and everything broken out and finalized. And then I'll do more research on that.
Sorry, I know she's had to call me, and, you know, they want a signature this afternoon. But I can see where I get frustrated. She handled it. So thank you, Kyra. We'll move on to the manager's report.
Yes, most of my report has been covered through the meeting. Appreciate everyone's help with the great hayfield, Lango, beanfield war. I will not take the hour. I will not. I'm just telling you, it's just out of a Steinbeck novel. Okay, you couldn't make it up. You couldn't. We're good. Thank you on that. There was a brief discussion about the border crossing and what have you, and I had a meeting last week with some folks in Canada on a video conference, and boy, I'm not confident at all they're going to open the border this year at all. I'm looking. My guess is April of 21, probably. That's just a guess. I don't know. I hope not, but I'm guessing that's where it's at. And of course, the adverse effect, of course, is for us, for customs and immigration traffic and what have you. Yeah. Learned something last week. Right now in the United States, there's only 15 airports that are allowing international traffic in, and the parameters are just super tight. You know, it's emergency, diplomats, it's crew only, et cetera, et cetera. So we had an aircraft. That was coming across the pond. Customers of ours, VistaJet, great customers. And we thought, oh man, this is exciting. They're transferring Europe on crew only. And they discovered, as we did, they were halfway across the pond, and they got the initial diversion was they were sent to Duluth. Well, they can't go to Duluth either. I found out they could go to either Minneapolis or Rochester, down to Minneapolis. It's kind of an interesting sidebar story. Regarding real estate, very interesting. The Boyer property, which is on 108 mile from our location here, 300 mile, sold recently, and for some reason I think Brian will like this. So how much do you think a family, a person from Chicago paid for those 10 acres of Schoberg Boyer property? $27,000 for that property. $27,000, which is
That's a swamp and no utilities.
nothing. There's nothing. There's
I can't even understand what was amazing.
Half acre usable.
I don't know what is it. I'm guessing. And Chelsea have any conversation. I'm pretty sure that it's technical wetland. I'm thinking it is. I always start looking at it. So very interesting. So we'll see. But just that's just I wanted to share with the group. I double checked the map like 5 times, and yeah, the new owners are David Weiland from Chicago.
Would you guess that sight unseen?
I would think it would have fascinating. It would be interesting. That's all I'm saying. Is like, whoa, that's kind of cool.
You want to be close to an airport. That'll send their constant.
And that's, by the way, and doing the research, that's what set the tone. Was the value of the Showbrook property, and if it wasn't going to the sight unseen, or you hear the numbers, right? Going from out of town. Well, here's the comparables, right? Here's the numbers. This is what it's worth. And they wrote them a check. Isn't it amazing? Other than that, thank you everyone for all the support and the help. I just cannot emphasize enough. Once again, Tyler's great work, Chelsea's great work, Ron's great work locally. Just incredible, really. There's always a lot going on, and they make my job much easier.
No supervision. That's what we need.
That's exactly what we need. Yeah. I shamelessly go to them with help. I don't even do it. What do you want now?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kyra, anything more? Secretary's report?
Employments are in the packet. We're on the uprise. We're getting there.
Readjusting the ballast tanks on the Titanic. We're leveling the ship.
It is getting
louder
better.
in the lobby area. No one
More people are flying now.
Yeah, a few more.
positive.
Yeah.
One thing, I'm also involved with the snowmobile club, and we talked at our last meeting. We're looking at a trail system somewhere to connect with the new hotel and the chocolate moves up in this area, because there's nowhere that you can get to the trail from this area. We've looked at a couple of different spots and ways to go about it, and the discussion was trail system that's already back along the French line on the north side there.
Perfect.
That if they could, in the wintertime, just groom a trail through there. The trees are already cut and whatnot, so I don't know what
yeah, I'm sure enough you can forgive me.
No, go ahead.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm 1,000% on board. But is there any regs? Is there any MnDOT regs or FA regs that get a bugger in the jam, or if we won't talk about that, we just continue?
Well, that's another thing, because the bike trail, if there was issues with the bike trail.
I remember that. And you reduce and you make it more dangerous. Yeah, I think it's great.
So,
Yeah.
But there's already a trail that people are using.
I guarantee there's a perfect path.
But to that point, where's common sense when they take you off a bike trail? Then you got to go on the highway? I mean,
so I wonder if we just do it. Yeah, and then I'll take the heat and to the innocence, and
we'll just say Casey made us do it.
it's a lot easier.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness and permission. So that's it. That's an Anderson model right there,
Kyra, I just want to reference these two, aside from the advertising, both radio and print and digital that we do. Kyra got spots, we use some of that marketing funds for earbuds for the traveling public. Can we just put them out there and press the oven that says INL? So if you want to look at those.
Hey, check this out. How big my melon's so big, and now these ones so big. My napper jowls come through right here.
And Kyra, one other thing, we started slowly but surely looking at some artwork.
Yeah.
Deb Sminsky and Martha Ensman are looking at some the holding area, secure holding area. So from the, they've got some, they make these large fish mobiles. And then we got a request from Cantilever. They've got some barrels, or one barrel that Mr. Harris makes.
Can they get it?
Well, they're wondering if they put one out here, but they would also have brochures on it.
Hey, yeah, the one they use, we can trade. You put the two on it. Yeah, we can trade. Yeah.
So they want to do it as local art, but they would have a brochure component where they're advertising a little bit. But anyway,
yeah. All right. Anything else? Our daughter Jenna flew in from Arizona, and she's up here for 3 weeks. And she said it was actually a pretty good experience because the planes aren't crowded. She's got a little dog. She couldn't leave, and they were very accommodating. She brought the dog up here. She was very impressed, with the airport because she hasn't seen all of this. Yeah. Kind of like getting feedback from people I know and see what they really think. She was very impressed. All right. Any other business come before this board? If not, motion adjourned would be in order.
So moved.
All right. Second, Walton.
Next meeting?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Can't say aye, but I said it.
thank you.
next meeting.
What's the next meeting?
Let's set it. What would it be? I think I don't know.
26th.
26th is the last Wednesday in August.
8 a.m. Right here. How's that?
Perfect. 26. 8 a.m.
All right, good work, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, on